King. I'm at
Mr.
24.
King, do you want to speak of this, Mr. King, do you want to speak about this particular ordinance?
Yes, I do actually. I just want to commend you for this action. I appreciate you're going to protect the officers and you're going to protect the public, and it's altogether fitting and proper. I wish you much success. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gary,
You made a
you made
motion.
a motion, do I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, any further?
Committeeman Woman Maziarz.
Yes.
Committeeman Marion.
Yes.
Committeeman DiNardo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sardillo.
Yes.
Mayor Lazo.
Yes. Mr. Merritt.
Thank you, Mayor. An ordinance number 20-11, public hearing adoption. An ordinance authorizing the amount of $24,000 as appropriation from the Capital Improvement Fund to provide for the purchase of 3 garage doors for installation at the Public Works Building.
Thank you, Nick. I'll open for public hearing.
Donna?
Mr. King may have had his, let me just ask him.
He's good?
Good, thanks.
All right.
Okay, we'll close that. Nick?
Where are we here?
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt ordinance 21-11.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Committeewoman Maziarz.
Yes.
Committeeman Marion.
Yes.
Committeeman DiNardo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sardillo.
Yes.
Mayor Marion.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Nice, I got you.
Mayor.
I actually said yes, too. That's even worse.
You get 2 votes now?
I know you did. I did.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You're turning red, but that's all right.
That might have been a
Yolanda?
senior moment.
Ordinance number 21-12 for public hearing and adoption, an ordinance authorizing the amount of $22,000 as an appropriation from the Capital Improvement Fund to provide for the purchase of a new gate and associated equipment at the Public Works facility.
I'll open this for public hearing. Seeing none, I'll close. Yolanda?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 21-12.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Committeewoman Maziarz.
Yes.
Committeeman Marion.
Yes.
Committeeman DiNardo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sordillo.
Yes.
Mayor Lazo.
Yes. Victor?
Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 21-13, public hearing for adoption. An ordinance authorizing the amount of $45,000 as an appropriation from the capital fund balance to provide funding for the purchase and installation of a new generator for the police court building.
Thank you, Victor. I'll open for public hearing. Close
Okay.
public, and Vic?
Motion to adopt ordinance 21-13.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Committeewoman Maziarz.
Yes.
Committeeman Marion.
Yes.
Committeeman DiNardo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sordillo.
Yes.
Mayor Lazo.
Yes. Gary?
Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 21-14, public hearing and adoption, an ordinance authorizing the amount of $25,000 as an appropriation from the capital fund balance to provide funding for the purchase and installation of a solar panel powered signal and crosswalk on Du Bois Road.
I'll open for public.
Okay.
Okay, close that. Gary?
Motion to adopt ordinance 21-14.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Committeewoman Maziarz.
Yes.
Committeeman Marion.
Yes.
Committeeman Committeeman DiNardo.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sordillo.
Yes.
Mayor Lazo.
Yes. Mr. Marion?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to introduce ordinance number 21-15, public hearing adoption. An ordinance of the Township of Warren in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, prohibiting the operation of any class of cannabis business within its geographical boundaries and amending section 16-5.25 entitled Prohibited Uses of the revised general ordinance of the Township of Warren, 1972.
Open for public hearing?
Yes, 5 people have
There's
their
5
hands
people.
raised.
Okay.
Okay, so let's take one at a time, Donna. I need their names.
Okay, I think Mr. Grimes took himself.
Mr. Grimes, do you want to speak on this ordinance?
I think there's just a delay in unmuting, but
Does he have his mic on, or?
He's
Is it-
got his hand raised, Donna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've asked him to unmute.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I'm sorry. My
Yes, Mr. Grimes, can you state your name for us, please?
my name is Edward Lefty Grimes. I'm with sativacross.org. We're a 501c3 here in New Jersey, advocating for disabled rights and for cannabis patients' rights.
Can you turn the volume up?
I am at 84 Hanover Road, East Hanover. I'd like you to consider the sick and the dying before you pass this ordinance. There are sick people that need your help.
There you go.
I'm not talking about recreational cannabis. I'm here to talk about medical cannabis for people that are suffering with cancer, suffering with multiple sclerosis, people in wheelchairs. I think you need to consider the last first. Put the last first, because right now we need your help. We're getting hit from all sides. We're getting taxed by the state 7%. Our medicine's being taxed 7%. There's no other medicine being taxed. They're not taxing your heart medicine or your diabetes medicine or something that anyone else needs. No, but they're taxing medical cannabis, which is hurting us. And then the towns that are accepting this tax, it's another 2% on us. Then we go to the dispensaries. Well, first of all, we get on the line for the dispensary. And when the people in the wheelchairs get to the front of that line, they're usually out of the strains that we need. They're out of the amounts that we need. And then corporate cannabis is selling us moldy cannabis. This is not how you treat sick and dying people. And then the towns that are banning it, they're not considering what it's like to live in a wheelchair. And I ask every council this. We've been to 100 council meetings this year. I ask every council this, to spend one day in a wheelchair and see what it's like. Because let me tell you, it's not easy. Now you have to get a ride. Now, since they're banning the cannabis in your town or in whatever town they're living in, now that's an extra cost of delivery. Delivery is an extra cost. And a lot of places, a lot of people want to browse in these places. So then you have to get in a wheelchair and get in a car. Now, people in wheelchairs don't have a lot of money. They're on disability. Now you're asking them to go in a car, incur another expense with an Uber, if they even take you in a wheelchair. I ask you to just consider these things before you make a decision and do some more research on medical cannabis patients. That's all I'm talking about, helping sick people. You don't ever have to have a recreational dispensary. But certainly, if we have a place for all these pharmaceuticals and we don't have no problem selling synthetic marijuana, synthetic cannabis, why are we stigmatizing God's medicine? God put this here. It's natural. It's not man-made in the pharmacies. The stuff in the pharmacies is killing us. We're trying to get off that. I was on opiates for 10 years. I have an artificial disc. I have a fusion. I got a 2-level cervical here. And I was on opiates for 10 years. I got off of those opiates using cannabis. I was surprised that it worked as good as it did for me. I didn't think cannabis was this miracle because I've used it during my life. I was like, hey, whatever. But it actually became an important medicine for me. I use it with my acupuncture. I use it with my cupping, my laser, my TENS, my massage. All those everything, it all works together for me to keep me off of those pills that they're trying to push on me. I'll end it with this. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds uncounted. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Kathy. We have more, correct?
Thank
Correct.
you.
Donna, who's next?
Mr. Giordano?
Mr. Giordano?
Yes, can you hear me
wanna unmute
okay?
yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
My name is Hugh Giordano. I'm a representative of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, UFCW, Local 152. We're a labor union of 1.3 million hardworking families across the U.S. and Canada. And we are also the official labor union, which represents cannabis workers from seed to sale, both medical and adult use, under the guise of the AFL-CIO. We are also working with the building trades who are doing the build out and retrofit of these facilities as well. On behalf of the UFCW, I'm asking you to table this ordinance and please consider the jobs that will be lost. In New Jersey, the cannabis law has the best labor regulations in the country. In fact, other states are taking our regulations, such as Virginia just passed adult use about 2 weeks ago, and they took New Jersey's labor language right out of it because it creates good union jobs with living wages, healthcare, sick time, vacation time, paternity leave, and retirement. These are careers. These are educated jobs as well. These folks have degrees in botany, horticulture, chemistry. Pharmacists work in the medical facilities. So these are educated careers. On top of that, these jobs will bring in an economic boom and allow people to reach the middle class, specifically young people who need these jobs. I would ask two things. One, please visit the Garden State Dispensary, which I can offer a tour of. It's a seed to sale facility, so you can see the whole process from the time the seed is planted till the time it's sold to the patient. That way you can see the security level of it. They hire retired police and veterans to secure the facility, so they're our best trained. If the state has trained these folks already, we should take advantage of our seniors who have these skills and abilities so that they're part of the community still. On top of that, I would ask that you look at the city of Bayonne. The city of Bayonne passed an ordinance about 6 weeks ago, which sets up a merit-based system to get into their city. It's a very conservative ordinance because they only allow a couple facilities in such a large city, but it works perfectly for you. You can change what you want and what you don't want. It sets out the permit and the application process, how much it costs, and also you can look at an employer's background, such as their environmental standards, their labor standards, their community standards, the research standards. So there's a lot there. So what we would ask is, please table this ordinance until you have further review. You have till August. I can get you the Bayonne ordinance and I can give you a tour of the dispensary. Please don't attack good union jobs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna, who's next?
Jamie Van Sciver.
Jamie?
Yes, good evening. My name's Jamie Van
Jamie,
Sciver.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Greenwich Avenue, Paulsboro, New Jersey. Good evening. I'm not from your town, but I am here to speak on behalf of medical patients that are suffering, dying needlessly. I'm also with Sativa Cross, advocating for medical cannabis patients' rights and accessibility for disabled individuals. I also am a medical patient myself. I have systemic lupus, so my immune system attacks all of my soft tissue, most detrimental, my organs, but muscles, skin, connective tissue, ligaments, tendons. I have fibromyalgia and I have moderate scoliosis. And those diagnoses led me down a path of pharmaceuticals. I had to go get infusions. I had to take immune suppressants. I had to take anti-malarials to try to protect my kidneys, anti-inflammatories, nerve blockers. Even the anti-inflammatories were causing so much issues with my stomach, leading to bleeding ulcers on top of my gastroparesis and esophageal reflux. I haven't used any pharmaceuticals for 6 years. I haven't gone for any infusions. I haven't found a cannabis strain that will replace my allergy medication, which I'm suffering with currently. But my lab work doesn't lie. I have turned my health around. I'm not masking anything. I'm not introducing toxins into my body, chemicals to like fake my body out that I'm not really in pain as the inflammation and problem still keeps occurring. I talked about my physical diagnoses, now my mental health, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm also not taking any pharmaceuticals for that. I do a lot of outreach and work hands-on with the homeless population, specifically veterans. And veterans are killing themselves at a rate of 22 per day. And there's a lot of depression and a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder. And I don't know if you're familiar with treatment, the pharmaceutical path, they'll give you antidepressants and specifically SSRIs are increasing people's desire for suicidal tendencies. We really need to give people another path. You guys are all sitting there underneath that flag because veterans have defended all of us, our country. We need to do better for them. I am at home for the brave bringing toilet paper and soap because we're not providing that for them. We're not giving them access to medication that doesn't make them want to kill themselves more. This is saving lives. Please educate yourselves. If you're going to make decisions for an entire community, your constituents voted for 62.97% for recreational. I believe that people can only perceive from their level of perception. Please have compassion on medical patients. These people are dying and suffering. They may not be here tonight because they're in the pharmaceutical cycle that I was, that you feel toxic, that you're just depressed, that you're 60 pounds heavier and can't move. You have no core strength. You can't help your own spine. This is making miraculous strides. Please don't take it out of the hands of people in your community. 2/3 of your population want recreational. What are you guys doing? Are you listening to them? Is it out of fear? Let us help educate you. Let me tell you my story. Come listen to a cancer patient. Do you want to talk to a mother of a seizure child that her child was having 200 seizures a day? Now the child's 500 days seizure free. These are drop seizures that'll kill somebody. Grand Mal, have you ever witnessed that? And instead, the pharmaceutical option, you have to yank their pants down and put a syringe in their anus. Maybe once or twice, maybe you're in public. Maybe, come on, we've got to do better. People are dying and suffering. Please embrace the educational resources that are out there, at least about medical. This is legal. People voted for it. Why are you taking it out of their hands? They want it. I travel around to different dispensaries within the state. They're very secure. I have to show a couple forms of ID to get in. I've never felt unsafe, and I'm going there with a substantial amount of cash because I can't use a card. I'm coming out of there with a substantial amount of product, and I'm not scared. It's protected. I wish you please at least take that union representative. He just offered you guys a very good thing. Go see it for yourselves. Please don't make decisions based off of fear and ignorance and racism. Please take the opportunity to educate yourselves and to give your constituents what they want. To leave. When people have chronic pain and chronic illness, my condition is never going to go away. If I get on a pharmaceutical path, you guys understand people's bodies build tolerances to these substances. Their body lies and says, I want more, give me more. You're going to have pain.
Preach, Jane.
It ravages your body, and then you build tolerances and take more. Fentanyl, Oxycontin, Percocet. These are the things that people are overdosing on. These are the things that are available at the pharmacies that you never took votes on, you never banned, you never had ordinances.
That's right.
Is there Narcan? How many Narcan uses are being used? This is for the controlled substances. Fentanyl, Oxycontin, Percocet. That's what that Narcan's for. If you have any exposure to cannabis, even unfortunately, if someone were to have an undesired exposure and have to have emergency treatment for cannabis, you're going to go to the hospital and you're going to be held for observation. They're not going to pump your stomach. They're not going to filter anything. You might get a very expensive bag of salt water, but there's an endocannabinoid system in our body.
Jamie, I don't mean to be rude and interrupt you. I just had to be considerate of those that are still waiting to speak. So I just would, if you could finish your point so I can let the others afford them some time to make their comments as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Please have empathy. At least one patient. You're not going to listen to your constituents about recreation.
Don't believe there's a time limit tonight.
Thank you.
When they read these ordinances, I don't believe there's a time limit. Just so you know, no time limit tonight.
Okay, we're going to unmute yourself. I guess it's the letter R. Sir, I need you to identify yourself.
Yes, hi, my name is Marina Redman. I live at 3 Burrell Square, New Jersey. I would also love to discuss medical cannabis and how much it's helped me along my journey. I was born with a birth defect on my leg, which caused me to have PTSD between the ages of 1 and 4.5. I was in a big major hospital in New York City. Back then, parents weren't allowed to stay over with your child. I was left there all alone at night, being wheeled in the operating room. My mother wasn't allowed to walk me in there like they are, like you're allowed to do today. I had my leg amputated. I had to spend 2 weeks in a bed, and then I had to spend another 2 weeks in the hospital. It was frightening. It was scary. It was unbelievable. And that's my PTSD started. My blood pressure could go up to 199. I've had doctors tell me, please smoke before you see me. What medical doctor will tell you, please smoke before you see me? And unfortunately, in 2017, I was diagnosed with cancer. It went away and it came back. But the first time I lost 50 pounds within 3 weeks, because no matter what pharmaceutical drug they put me on, it did not work. It was horrible. I was vomiting, I was laying in my bed, curled up in a ball, and I could not move. My mother had to take care of me a couple of times during chemo treatments when I couldn't get my medicine. I had to be walked to the bathroom, one side my mother, one side the nurse. It was humiliating. I had to have a surgery, which was supposed to be 4 to 5 hours. It was 6 hours. I got so sick from the narcotics they gave me. I had to have a tube stuck in my throat, stuck in my nose, down my throat, because of pharmaceuticals they gave me. In the state of New Jersey, there's 63 psychiatrists that prescribe medical cannabis. 2 of them are in your county. Excuse me. You have 10 pediatric doctors that prescribe medical cannabis. Like I said, my doctor says, please smoke before you see me. Has anyone ever had a doctor will tell them, please smoke medical cannabis because of the PTSD or because it calms them down so much? There was a child who couldn't get her medication, who had a 25-hour seizure because she could not get medical cannabis. And she could have, because like I said, there's 10 pediatric doctors in the state of New Jersey. I'm going to end it with, please take Hugh up on his wonderful offer. A bunch of towns have already said they would like to go with him for this. Like you said, it's seed to sprout. It will be a wonderful thing to open your eyes to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna, anybody else?
The last person is Mr. King, who spoke earlier about the.
Oh, Mr. King?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Jeff King, Eatontown, Elizabeth Parkway. Respectfully would like to also request that you please reconsider a ban and instead think about the zoning, that you could incorporate the different types of licenses to the best of all the community, as far as sick people who are suffering, that need medication, that's compassionate and loving and caring, to think of them and bend over backward to do anything you can for veterans and little children and middle-aged folks and everyone, parents and brothers and sisters. We all have a loved one, best friend. So that's without a doubt. My dad is a veteran. He's a member of the American Legion, and they overwhelmingly support medical cannabis. So access for the American Legion is a priority. AARP, always been respected. Retired persons, they had a whole issue on medical cannabis information for their members. So that's just mainstream. That's totally really an asset to a community to have a good local quality organic medicine. It's a spiritual belief of mine, so it's part of my religious practice. That's something that I cherish, actually, and it's nice that I'm no longer a criminal. There's a governor saying you have a beer on the house for having a COVID shot. Well, in New York, they have joints for jabs, and that's more something that I think is healthier and safer. I think that's joint for giving someone who's picking up litter as a volunteer and sharing cannabis as a reward. I think that's the kind of thing that builds community spirit. So, I think differently, but it's a way that is successful where I have family out west, and even in Massachusetts, there's opportunity for more than medical, for the jobs, it's a great rateable for the landlords. You know, I don't know if it really can fit there or not. So maybe it can't, and you decide, all right, we want to ban it. Please honor the will of the people more than the governor did with respect to home growing rights. Please be consistent with individual liberty and personal freedom. And the 10th Amendment grants states' rights, and the state needs to grant the individual right to home growing, especially for patients. I know that's a little outside of this ordinance, but please just consider what the whole gamut of possibilities here, and be open-minded and caring and compassionate and fair and just and liberty-minded. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Is there anybody else?
No.
Is there anyone here who would like to speak? All right.
Table, 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 table,
Someone in the audience would like to?
table, 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 table.
Name and address.
We don't get to see them? We don't get to see them.
The marijuana dispensary. I would like, unless this is for medical usage, it must be banned for recreational purposes outright. Okay, it will cause a deterioration of our society even further if you legalize it completely for recreational use. Good time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mayor?
Mr. Mary?
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to adopt ordinance 21-15.
No talking?
Second.
No discussion?
Discussion. Joel?
Yes, for everyone who's talking about medical marijuana and the need, I am infinitely sympathetic, and I think I speak for all of my colleagues when I say that.
Oh, can't tell.
Right now, at this moment, I have two very dear friends who are both suffering from stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. So I know a little bit of something about suffering, and I've always been a big fan of non-pharmaceuticals, you know, things that are natural. So to me, I do sympathize, but let me say this, and I have to qualify what I'm going to say next.
That's a big but.
I'm a land use attorney, and I'm a local government attorney here in New Jersey, and I have to say that the way this legislation has been structured and the way that it has been rolled out and the way that the requirements are for municipalities, it didn't give us a great deal of time to figure out how we were going to allow cannabis and cannabis uses in our communities. Now, when we talk about larger municipalities like Bayonne, or I know of Asbury Park and others that already have ordinances that they've worked on the books, I will tell you, because I know personally, I used to work down in Asbury Park as their land use attorney a couple of years ago. They have a planning department. They have a planning department that has been looking at this since Governor Murphy was first elected. That was a number of years ago. Before legalization even happened, there are a number of municipalities that have already been working toward this end, because they don't employ consultants the way smaller towns do. They have departments and employees. They've been looking to do this. They've been working on it, and they have come up with ordinances that regulate the uses within their borders I think, in a satisfactory manner. Now, smaller towns like us who haven't been doing this, we've been given 180 days, 6 months. Many people, I guess, can't appreciate how long it takes to enact appropriate regulations, but I can tell you in New Jersey, we should be doing a planning study. We should be amending our master plan. We should be creating regulations, and that means we have to adopt ordinances. All of that takes time. 180 days, in my opinion, and I do this for a living, is not enough time. So the option that our municipality has taken, and consequently, if you look around at all of the municipalities around us, even ones who have said initially that they would love to have cannabis uses come here, and we've never said that we didn't. Even they are doing what we're doing right now, and what we're doing is opting out. Yes, it is a prohibition, but it's a prohibition for now. Because if we don't opt out by August 21st of this year, we're stuck for 5 years. And when I say stuck, what I mean is whatever use comes to town, cannabis becomes a permitted use in any industrial zone, and it becomes a conditional use, whatever that means, whatever that means.
I know what that means.
We haven't figured that out yet.
I know what that means.
It becomes a conditional use in any retail or commercial zone. And once it establishes itself there, whether or not it's causing problems, and when I talk about problems, I talk about traffic problems, parking problems, whatever the case may be, we are not permitted to prohibit that particular use that's already established forever. And if we want to move forward and prohibit cannabis uses to prevent other businesses from locating in that general area, which we already know might be causing an issue, potentially, we can't do so for 5 years. So what we're doing is the more prudent approach. This is the approach that most municipalities that haven't already taken steps to permit it conclusively,
How long should
they're
cancer
opting
patients
out
wait?
by August 21st. There isn't a lot of time at this point. It's May.
Why do cancer
So we don't
patients
have
have
a lot
to
of
wait?
time to do studies
Wait for
and
what?
figure out where we should put it. So we are being prudent. That's not to say that it will never come here. All I'm saying is we need time. We need time to figure it
That's
out.
6 months.
And that's all we're doing. We're
Other
trying
towns
to
did
take
it.
our time to figure it out so that we can impose appropriate regulations. Because if we don't do it by August, then we will have forfeited our opportunity as a town to regulate our land
Still
uses
have 3
appropriately.
months.
I don't think we should be
Still
doing
have
that.
6 more
So
council
as much as I'm sympathetic, we need time, we need to figure this out,
6
and we need
months.
to make it right. And we
Yola,
can't.
Victor, wait 1 second. Yola, thank you very much.
Sure.
That's a beautiful summary. I know, Mr. Mary, Mr. Denaro, you had some opinions before I defer to the.
Yeah, that's what I was speaking to Mr. Marion about, this massive stuff, is that we know there's a need for medical, natural uses, and, but if we do not do this now, we prohibit ourselves from regulating it in the future. And we would be stuck with any use of cannabis. I mean, recreational, and that's what we heard today or this evening is this is for medical use, people with very serious illnesses and issues. But we have not established anything to look at that and whether or not the pharmacies will be a part of it or not part of it. I know you can get it right now through a pharmacy, but we have not had the time or the resources right at the moment to really research it and put a plan together. This will allow us to do that and to look at it in the future. And that's what I was talking to Mr. Mayor about.
I agree.
Thank you,
And I
Mr.
agree,
Mayor.
Mr. DiNardo, and I
Yeah.
agree with Ms. Maziarz. And my sympathy is to those folks out there that
Yes.
suffer from any kind of medical issue, especially veterans or all of us in general that suffer from any disease. So we hear you, but please understand that while you and your intentions may be well known and
they are.
you're much more probably educated than perhaps we are at this point, we need to have the same time to educate ourselves too. And in doing so protects this township, most importantly. It gives us the opportunity to educate the balance of the township too, in terms of what and where we're going here. So we're taking the baby steps. I don't think there's anybody on this dais that is against something that helps people from a medical perspective.
No.
Agreed.
So that's it, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I don't think that what we're doing is stopping any medical distribution of marijuana. I have a friend whose son has been in a wheelchair all his life, and he stopped having seizures based on his being able to utilize medical marijuana. I don't think the argument that it's going to cost more to get it through the mail or to have to go to the pharmacy is not accurate, because my health insurance company is pushing me to go to meals, to keep me from driving to a pharmacy, which causes a carbon footprint increase. It's better to have it by mail for the environment. But the other issue is that I don't think that 2 months is going to give us any information to change our mind. I just drove into New York on Monday for business. I parked my car on 47th and 8th. 3 blocks, I could smell marijuana. I have some grandchildren in town. I don't want them exposed to that. That's a personal choice, but I think what I hear from the residents that I represent, they don't want their children exposed to it. If you want to use it in your house or get it through another location and keep it out of public, that's one thing, but exposing the rest of the public, it's, people say, I want you to wear your mask in public. It's some things you have to do for the public good, right? I wear my mask when I go down the street. I wear my mask everywhere except in my house and when I'm at a meeting and I can have social distancing. But that being said, sometimes you reverse is true. I think it's going to take, personally, having been in the business of analyzing risk for years, it's going to take 2 or 3 years of data before we know the effects of even recreational marijuana. I hear experts on both sides of the fence. I don't know who is the true expert, right? But I'd rather be cautious, as the CDC is doing on COVID, on the recreational use of marijuana, and see what the results are before I jump in. And finally, the issue is we have to do what's right for our Warren Township residents, and I believe my decision to support this resolution is the right one for Warren Township.
And Mayor,
Yes.
just one final thing.
Please.
I know we're not even debating, we're not going to debate, propriety versus impropriety, but this is a procedural issue. All this is a procedural ordinance. We need to opt out by August 21st. That's the bottom line. We can opt in any time. If we don't opt out, we're stuck for 5 years. But if we opt out now, we can opt in on August 22nd if that's what we want to do. So that's what this is. It's merely procedural.
That's correct. Thank you, Yola. And I'll just close with, we're simply, I'm not ashamed to say we're not prepared.
No, we're not.
We're not
As most
educated
municipalities, we're not.
I'm not
They're waiting for that bag of money from
the
the Canadian dispensaries.
I think we need some more time, and as you said, Yola, very, very well, we can opt into this at any time once we
They
feel
wait for
comfortable
the
with the research that
bag
we've
money.
obtained.
100%.
Sometimes
I
they give you a
said
big
it,
bag of money
I
to
think
change
during
that
introduction,
ordinance.
because we had comments at our last meeting, and I think I said it then, and I'll say it again. I don't wish to expose my community to something that is unknown. It's not the prudent thing to do. I don't want us to be the guinea pigs, that's all.
That's right. Thank you. Well said.
So I need to call the roll on this.
Yes, you do.
We've already had
Yes, we have.
a motion and a
second.
second, so I'll call the roll.
Thank you.
Committeewoman Maziarz?
Yes.
Committeeman Marion?
Yes.
Committeeman DiNardo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sordillo?
Yes.
Mayor Lazo?
Yes. Yolanda. Back up.
Mayor, ordinance 21-16 for public hearing and adoption. This is an ordinance to establish a cap bank for calendar year 20.
All right. We are going to end this one, and we'll come back in Chatham in a few minutes. When Chatham starts up with their public comment, we'll come back to Chatham. Until then, we're going to sign off, and we'll see you in a little bit. Have a good night. This is the Ignorance is No Excuse podcast. Ignorance is No Excuse tour. Warren.